Captain Lee Dongwu stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and watched the stars through the main screen. The ship moved slowly through space near a planet called Kepler-4 for 2b for 3 weeks. His crew had been studying this new world, found strange rocks, and took pictures of the surface. Everything seemed normal and peaceful. The New Horizon was not a warship. It carried tools for science, not weapons for fighting. Lee had spent 15 years in space, but he had never seen anything dangerous. Humans had visited 47 star systems, and all of them were empty. No aliens, no strange signals, nothing but rocks and gas. "Captain, we are getting some odd readings," said Park Jimen from her station. She was the chief engineer and the smartest person on the ship. Her fingers moved fast across the computer screen. "Something big is coming out of hyperspace." Lee walked over to her station. "How big?" "Very big, sir." "Much bigger than us?" The bridge became quiet. Communications specialist Choi So-young looked up from her desk. Tactical officer Kim Tae-ho stopped drinking his coffee. Everyone waited. "Captain," said Kim Tae-ho, "I have 5 ships on my screen. They just appeared from nowhere." Lee felt his heart beat faster. "Show me." The main screen changed. 5 dark ships appeared in space around them. Each ship was 3 times bigger than the New Horizon. They had strange shapes with sharp edges and glowing lights. Lee had never seen anything like them before. "Are not human ships?" whispered Choi So-young. Lee sat down in his captain's chair. His hands were shaking a little. He thought. First contact with aliens. He had dreamed about this moment for years. All humans had dreamed about it. But in his dreams, the aliens were friendly. These ships did not look friendly. "Captain," said Kim Tae-ho, "they are moving toward us. All 5 ships are getting closer." "Can we run away?" asked Lee. Park Jimin shook her head. "No, sir. Our engines are good, but their ships are much faster. Cannot escape. Are they trying to talk to us?" Choi So-young looked at her communication equipment. "Not yet, sir. But wait. Yes, I am getting a signal. They want to talk." Lee took a deep breath, put them on the main screen. The screen changed again. A face appeared that made everyone on the bridge step back. The alien had gray skin and yellow eyes. Its head was bigger than a human head, and it had no hair. Sharp teeth showed when it opened its mouth. The creature wore a dark uniform with strange symbols. "Human vessel," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Commander Vextar of the Vorthok Empire. You will surrender your ship immediately." Stood up slowly. His legs felt weak, but he tried to look brave. "I am Captain Lee Dongwu of the Earth ship New Horizon. We are on a peaceful science mission. We mean no harm to you or your people." The alien commander laughed. It was not a nice laugh. "Peaceful. Humans are spreading through space like a disease. We have watched you build colonies on 12 worlds. We have seen your ships exploring our territory. This ends now." "Your territory?" Lee asked. "We did not know this space belonged to anyone." "Well, space belongs to the Vorthok Empire," said Commander Vextar. "We have ruled this part of the galaxy for 1,000 years. We have destroyed many species that tried to challenge us. You are just another pest that needs to be removed." Kim Tae-ho looked at his weapon controls. The New Horizon had 2 small laser guns and some missiles. They were meant for destroying asteroids and space junk, not for fighting. "Captain," he whispered, "should I prepare our weapons?" Lee shook his head a little. "Our tiny weapons would do nothing against these huge alien ships." Commander Vextar, Lee said, "We do not want to fight. Can we talk about this? Maybe we can find a solution that works for both of our species." The alien commander's yellow eyes became brighter. "Talk? You want to negotiate? How amusing. Very well, human. You have one choice. Surrender your ship and your crew right now, or we will destroy you. You have 60 seconds to decide." The communication ended. The alien face disappeared from the screen. Everyone on the bridge looked at Lee. Dr. Yoon Hae-won came running from the science lab. She was breathing hard. "Captain, did I just see what I think I saw? Were those really aliens?" "Yes," said Lee, "and they want us to surrender or die." Park Jimin was working fast at her station. "Captain, I am reading their weapons. They have energy cannons that could cut our ship in half. Their shields are stronger than anything we have ever seen. Technology is hundreds of years ahead of ours." "How many people are on their ships?" asked Dr. Yoon. "Count about 200 on each ship," said Kim Tae-ho. 1,000 aliens total. They also have smaller fighter ships inside the big ones. Lee looked around at his crew. 28 people from Earth. All good people, all depending on him to keep them safe. He thought about his wife back on Earth. He thought about the colonies with millions of humans. If these aliens were telling the truth, all of humanity was in danger. "Captain," said Choi So-young, "they are calling us again." "Put him on screen." Commander Vexstar appeared again. "Your time is up, human. What is your answer?" Lee closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he looked straight at the alien. "Commander, we surrender. But I want to talk to you face to face. I want to understand why you see us as enemies." The alien smiled, showing those sharp teeth. "Very good. You are smarter than most species we have conquered. Prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to resist will result in the immediate destruction of your ship." The screen went dark. Lee turned to his crew. "Lower our shields. Power down all weapons. Do exactly what they tell us to do." He paused to start recording everything. "If we do not survive this, Earth needs to know what happened here." Park Jimin nodded. "Already done, sir. The message probe is ready to launch." Outside the ship, the 5 alien vessels moved closer. Their dark shapes blocked out the stars. Humanity's first contact with aliens had begun, and it was not going well. Lee sat back down in his chair and waited. Soon, he would meet the Vorthok Empire face to face. He hoped it would not be the last thing he ever did. The first thing Captain Lee Dongwoo noticed was the sound. A low humming noise filled the New Horizon as the alien ships came closer. The lights on the bridge flickered and all the computers started beeping warnings. "Jack," said Park Jimin. "They are scanning our ship with some kind of energy beam. It is going through our hull like we have no protection at all." Kim Tae-ho watched his tactical screen with growing fear. "Sir, they just turned off our weapons. All of them. I cannot even fire a single missile. It is like they have complete control of our systems." Lee felt helpless. In 15 years of space travel, he had never been in a situation like this. The aliens could do whatever they wanted to his ship, and he could not stop them. "Captain," said Choi So-young, "Commander." Vexstar is calling again. The alien commander appeared on the main screen. This time he looked pleased with himself. "As you can see, human, your weapons are useless. We have also disabled your engines and your communication system. You cannot call for help, and you cannot run away." "How did you do that?" asked Lee. "Your technology is very simple," said Vexstar. "We learned everything about human ships from watching your colonies. Your computers, your engines, your weapons, they are all primitive. We can control them as easily as you control a toy." Dr. Yoon Hae-won stepped forward. "Commander, we are scientists, not soldiers. We came here to study planets and stars, not to fight anyone." The alien commander looked at her with his bright yellow eyes. "Scientists? How interesting. On my ship, we have studied many species before we destroyed them. Perhaps you would like to see our collection before you die." Lee felt a chill run down his back. "Collection. Yes, we keep samples from every species we have conquered. Their bones, their art, their technology. It helps us remember our victories." Vexter smiled his sharp-toothed smile. "Your species will make a fine addition." Suddenly, the New Horizon shook hard. Everyone on the bridge grabbed onto something to keep from falling. "They are pulling us toward their big ship," said Park Jimin. "Some kind of tractor beam. I cannot break free." Through the main screen, Lee watched as his ship moved slowly toward the largest alien vessel. The Vorthok flagship was enormous, bigger than any human building. Its hull was covered with weapons and armor. Strange lights moved across its surface, like living things. "Prepare for transport," said Commander Vexstar. "You and your senior officers will come aboard my ship. The rest of your crew will remain locked in their quarters." The communication ended. Lee looked around at his crew. "Jimin, Tae-ho, So-young, Hae-won, you are with me." Everyone else, go to your rooms and stay there. Do not try to be heroes. We need to stay alive and learn as much as we can about these aliens." 20 minutes later, Lee and his officers stood in a bright white room aboard the Vorthok flagship. The transport had been instant and strange. One moment they were on their ship. The next moment they were here. Lee still felt dizzy from the experience. The room was huge, much bigger than anything on the New Horizon. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps and alien writing. In the center of the room stood Commander Vexstar and 6 other Vorthok officers. "Welcome to the Destroyer of Worlds," said Vexstar. "This ship has ended the existence of 43 species. Your species will be number 44. Dr. Yoon looked around the room with wide eyes. She was studying everything, trying to understand the alien technology. "How long have your people been traveling in space?" she asked. 3,000 years, said one of the other Vorthok officers. "We have conquered over 200 star systems. We have destroyed any species that might become a threat to our empire." Lee stepped forward. "Why do you see us as a threat? Humans have only been in space for 50 years. We have a few small colonies and some exploration ships. We are not trying to conquer anyone." Commander Vexstar walked to a large screen on the wall. Pictures appeared showing human colonies and ships. "Look at your expansion, human. In 50 years, you have spread to 12 worlds. You build cities and factories. You send out more ships. Every year, in 100 years, you might be strong enough to challenge us." "So you destroy species before they become dangerous?" asked Dr. Yoon. "Exactly. It is much easier to crush a small threat than to fight a big war later." Park Ji-min was looking at the alien computers. Technology was incredible. The screens showed information faster than any human computer could process. The power systems were completely different from anything humans had built. "Your energy source," she said. "What powers ships this big?" Vexstar seemed amused by the question. "We harvest energy directly from stars. One of our ships can drain a sun in 10 years. We use that power to travel between galaxies and to destroy entire worlds." Kim Tae-ho had been quiet, but now he spoke. "Up. How many ships do you have?" "In this fleet, 5 ships and 2,000 warriors. In our entire empire, over 1 million ships." The alien commander watched the humans' faces as he spoke. "Do you understand now? Your entire species could not fight even one of our battle fleets." Lee felt the weight of the situation crushing down on him. 1 million ships. Each ship more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. Earth had maybe 100 ships total, and most of them were cargo vessels or scientific explorers. "Like the New Horizon. What happens to our colonies?" asked Lee. "The people living on those worlds?" "They will be removed," said Vexter simply. "Some will be kept as specimens for our museums. Most will be eliminated. It is nothing personal, human. It is just efficient." Dr. Yoon stepped closer to one of the screens. It showed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots marked Vorthok territory. It covered almost half of all known space. Blue dots showed human colonies. There were only 12 blue dots in a sea of red. "You have been watching us for a long time," she said. "Yes, we noticed your first colony ship 20 years ago. Since then, we have studied your species carefully. We know your weaknesses, your technology, your military strength. We know everything about you." Another Vorthok officer spoke up. "Humans are interesting but not unique. You're curious and adaptable, but many species have those traits. You are also violent and territorial, like most primitive races." Lee wanted to argue, but he knew it would be useless. These aliens had the power to destroy everything humans had built. They had weapons that could crack planets, and technology that was centuries beyond human understanding. Commander Lee said, "Is there any way our species can coexist? We could stay in our small part of space? We would not interfere with your empire." Vexstar laughed. "Other species have made the same offer. They all broke their promises eventually. It is better to end the threat now." The alien commander walked to another screen, showed the New Horizon floating in space, looking tiny next to the Vorthok. Your ship will be destroyed in 1 hour," he said. "Your crew will be terminated. You five will remain alive long enough to watch your homeworld burn. Lee felt his heart sink. Everything he had worked for, everyone he cared about, was about to be destroyed by beings so powerful that humans were nothing more than insects to them. But as he looked around at his officers, he saw something in there. Eyes that gave him hope. They were not giving up. They were studying, learning, planning. Even in the face of impossible odds, humans never stopped trying to find a way to survive. Captain Lee Dongwu watched the countdown timer on the alien screen. 37 minutes until his ship would be destroyed. 37 minutes until his crew would die. He had to think of something, but what could he do against beings this powerful? Commander Vextar stood with his back to the humans, looking out at the stars through a massive window. The other Vorthok officers were preparing to leave the room. Everything seemed decided. Wait, said Lee suddenly. I want to make a request. Vextar turned around slowly. His yellow eyes looked amused. A request? You were about to die, human? What could you possibly want? Lee took a deep breath. He was about to gamble with the lives of everyone he knew. In human culture, when someone is condemned to death, they get a last request. Final chance to do something meaningful before they die. How quaint, said one of the other Vorthok officers. The primitive species wants to perform some ritual. Vextar held up his hand. What is your request, human? Challenge you to single combat, said Lee. One human against one Vorthok. Winner takes all. The room became completely silent. The Vorthok officers looked at each other in surprise. Then they started laughing. It was a cold, cruel sound that echoed off the metal walls. Combat? Said Vextar, you want to fight us? Have you forgotten that we are centuries ahead of you in every way? Ow. Our warriors are stronger, faster, and better equipped than any human. Dr. Yoon Haewon stepped forward. Captain, what are you doing? Lee did not look at her. He kept his eyes on Commander Vextar. I am trying to save our species the only way I can think of. Vextar stopped laughing. He walked closer to Lee, studying. The human captain with new interest. Tell me more about this challenge. It is simple, said Lee. One warrior from each species fights to the death. If your champion wins, you can destroy humanity as planned. But if our champion wins, you leave our space and never return. The Vorthok officers started talking among themselves in their own language. It sounded like hissing and clicking. Lee could not understand the words, but he could tell they were arguing. Finally, Vextar spoke again. This is unexpected. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species has ever challenged us. 2 single combat. Then you accept? Asked Lee. I did not say that. Vextar walked back to his command chair. Why would we risk everything on a single fight when we could simply destroy you with no risk at all? Lee felt his heart sinking. His desperate plan was not working. But then Dr. Yoon spoke up again. Commander, may I ask you something about Vorthok culture? Vextar looked at her with curiosity. What do you want to know? Your ship is called the Destroyer of Worlds. Your empire prides itself on conquest and strength, but you have only conquered weak species. You have never faced a real challenge. The room became dangerous quiet. The Vorthok officers were no longer laughing. Their hands moved toward their weapons. Careful, human, said Vextar in a low voice. You are very close to dying right now. But Dr. Yoon continued. I have been watching your people since we arrived. You wear battle armor and carry weapons, even on your own ship. You have scars from fights. Combat is important to your culture. Maybe more important than I first thought. What is your point? Asked Vextar. My point is that destroying defenseless species is not really conquest. It is extermination. There is no honor in killing someone who cannot fight back. One of the Vorthok officers hissed angrily. The human dares to question our honor. She is right, said another officer. We have not faced a true warrior challenge in centuries. All recent conquests have been simple elimination of inferior species. Vextar raised his hand for silence. He looked at Dr. Yoon with something that might have been respect. You are more clever than I expected, human scientist. You understand us better than most. Lee saw his chance. Yes.
So you will accept the challenge?
Perhaps, said Vextar, but there would be conditions. The combat must follow ancient Vorthok tradition. Each warrior chooses their own weapons and equipment. The fight continues until one fighter cannot continue. No outside help is allowed. Park. Ji-Min whispered to Lee, Captain, this is insane. Their warrior will have technology we cannot match. Lee nodded, but he had already made his decision. I accept your conditions, Commander. Wait, said Kim Tae-ho, will be our champion. Captain, you cannot fight one of their warriors. You are a ship commander, not a soldier. Before Lee could answer, a new voice spoke from behind them. I will fight. Everyone turned around. Lieutenant Colonel Shin Min-ho had just entered the room. He was the head of security for the New Horizon, but Lee had not expected to see him here. How did you get on this ship? Asked Lee. They transported me with a second group, said Shin. Day wanted to question me about human military capabilities. He looked at Commander Vextar. I heard your conversation through the communication system. If you want a warrior to fight, I am your man. Vextar studied the newcomer. Shin was taller than the other humans and had old scars on his arms. His posture showed years of military training. You are a soldier, said Vextar. It was not a question. Former Special Forces, said Shin.
Ow.
20 years in the military before I joined the space program. I have fought in more battles than anyone else on this ship. Interesting. Vextar turned to his officers. What do you think? Should we accept this human's challenge? The Vorthok officers talked among themselves. Again. Lee watched their faces, trying to understand what they were deciding. Finally, they seemed to reach agreement. It's very well, said Vextar. We accept your challenge. But we choose the location of the combat. There is an asteroid field near here. The fight will take place on the largest asteroid. Each fighter will have access to the environment and whatever resources they can find or bring. Who will be your champion? Psst. Vextar smiled his sharp-toothed smile. General Krathnox, our greatest warrior. He has won over 200 single combats. He has never been defeated. As if summoned by his name, the door opened and another Vorthok entered the room. General Krathnox was bigger than the others, with more scars and darker armor. His presence filled the room with menace. This is the human that wants to fight me? Asked Krathnox. His voice was deep and rough. It looks weak. Looks can be deceiving, said Shin calmly. We shall see, said the Vorthok general. I will enjoy adding human bones to my collection. Vextar stood up from his chair. The combat will begin in 2 hours. That gives both fighters time to prepare. The rules are simple. Fight until one cannot continue. The winner's species survives. The loser's species dies. Lee felt the weight of the decision crushing down on him. He had just bet the entire human race on one man's ability to defeat an alien super warrior. If Shin lost, every human colony would be destroyed. Earth itself would burn. But if they did nothing, humanity would die anyway. At least this gave them a chance. General Krathnox, said Vextar, prepare your weapons. Human warrior, you may. Choose whatever equipment you think will help you. In 2 hours, we will see which species deserves to live. The countdown had stopped. Now everything depended on a single fight between two warriors. The fate of humanity rested on Lieutenant Colonel Shin Min-ho's shoulders. The asteroid was a dead rock floating in space, about 3 miles wide and covered with sharp metal pieces from old crashed ships. Lieutenant Colonel Shin Min-ho stood on the cold surface and watched his breath freeze in the thin air. Spacesuit kept him alive, but just barely. Across from him, General Krathnox looked like a metal giant. The Vorthok warrior wore powered armor that gleamed with energy. Blue lights ran along his arms and legs. His helmet had glowing displays that showed information about everything around him. He carried 3 different energy weapons and a force field generator on his belt, human, said Krathnox. Through his suit radio, you should have stayed on your little ship. Now you will die slowly on this cold rock. Shin checked his own equipment one more time. He had a basic laser rifle, some grenades, and a combat knife. Compared to the aliens' advanced weapons, his gear looked like children's toys above them. Both fleets watched from space. The human crew of the New Horizon was locked in the observation deck of the Vorthok flagship. Captain Lee Dongwu pressed, his face against the window, trying to see the fight that would decide everything. "This is impossible," whispered Park Jae-min. "Look at that alien's armor. Shin might as well be fighting with sticks and stones." Dr. Yoon Hae-won was studying the asteroid through a telescope. Environment is harsh. Extreme cold, radiation, unstable gravity. Maybe that will help somehow. Commander Vextar stood behind them, confident in his champion's victory. General Krathnox has fought on 100 different worlds. He has defeated warriors from dozens of species. Your human has no chance. On the asteroid, the fight began. Krathnox raised his main weapon, a plasma rifle that hummed with deadly energy. He aimed at Shin and fired. A bright beam of superheated gas shot across the rocky ground. Shin dove behind a metal boulder. Just as the plasma beam hit where he had been standing, the rock melted like ice in a fire. The alien weapon was incredibly powerful. "You cannot hide forever, human," called Krathnox. "My armor's sensors can see you through solid rock." The Vorthok general fired again and again. Each shot destroyed huge chunks of the asteroid. Shin rolled and ran, trying to stay alive. His own laser rifle seemed worthless against the aliens. Energy shields. For 10 minutes, the battle continued this way. Krathnox advanced slowly, using his superior weapons to destroy Shin's cover. The human kept moving. But he was running out of places to hide. Then something strange happened. Krathnox fired his plasma rifle, but nothing came out. The weapon made a clicking sound instead of its usual hum. "What?" muttered the alien general. He looked at his weapon display. Warning lights were flashing. Shin saw his chance and fired his laser rifle. The beam hit Krathnox's armor, but bounced off harmlessly. The alien shields were still working. Krathnox switched to his second weapon, an energy cannon. He pulled the trigger, but again nothing happened. More warning lights appeared on his helmet display. "Impossible," said the alien warrior. "My weapons are perfect. They cannot fail." But they were failing. One by one, Krathnox's advanced weapons stopped working. His targeting computer went dark. His motion sensors gave wrong readings. Even his communication systems started cutting in and out. On the Vorthok flagship, Commander Vextar was getting angry. "What is happening down there? Has Krathnox stopped fighting?" One of his officers was checking the ship's sensors. "Commander, we are detecting massive electromagnetic interference from the asteroid. Solar radiation, cosmic rays, magnetic fields from the metal debris. The environment is much harsher than we expected." "So what?" "Our equipment is designed to work anywhere." "Yes, sir, but not in conditions this extreme. The interference is overloading the delicate circuits in the General's advanced systems." Vextar stared at the screen in disbelief. "Are you telling me that our most advanced warrior is being defeated by bad weather?" Down on the asteroid, Krathnox was discovering the same thing. His powered armor was shutting down system by system. The complex electronics that made him nearly invincible were failing in the harsh environment. The radiation from nearby space storms interfered with his computer chips. The extreme cold made his energy cells work poorly. Magnetic fields from the metal debris confused his sensors. Its advanced technology, designed for controlled conditions, could not handle the chaos of the asteroid. "This cannot be happening," said Krathnox, as his armor's power began to fade. "I am the greatest warrior in the Empire. I have the best weapons, the strongest armor." Shin watched from behind a twisted piece of spaceship hull. He was starting to understand what was happening. Aliens' technology was too complex, too dependent on perfect conditions. When those conditions changed, everything failed at once. His own simple equipment was still working fine. His laser rifle was basic but reliable. His spacesuit was old but tough. His boots had good grip on the icy rocks. None of his gear was fancy, but all of it worked. "Having problems?" Shin called out. Krathnox tried to fire his third weapon, a sonic blaster. It made a weak beeping sound and then went quiet. His force field generator flickered and died. Even his armor's life support was failing. "Possible," repeated the alien general. My technology is superior. It must work. But it did not work. The Vorthok warrior found himself alone on a hostile asteroid with failing equipment and a human, an enemy who was still fully armed, for the first time in 200 battles. General Krathnox felt something he had never experienced before: fear. His confident advance turned into a desperate retreat. He stumbled across the uneven ground, trying to get his weapons working again. But the electronic systems were too damaged. The sophisticated circuits had been fried by radiation and electromagnetic pulses. Shin stood up from his hiding place and started walking toward the alien warrior. His movements were calm and steady. He had grown up on a world with harsh weather and had learned to adapt to difficult conditions. This frozen asteroid was hostile, but he knew how to survive in hostile places. The problem with having the best technology, Shin said into his radio, is that when it breaks, you have nothing left. Krathnox slapped the side of his helmet, trying to get his targeting system working. Fight me properly, human. Use your advanced weapons. These are my advanced weapons, said Shin, holding up his simple laser rifle. They work when I need them to work. The alien general tried to run, but his powered armor was now dead weight. The servos that gave him superhuman strength had stopped working. The gyroscopes that helped him balance were offline. He moved like an old man carrying a heavy load. Shin raised his rifle and fired. The basic laser beam hit Krathnox in the chest. Without his energy shields, the alien armor cracked. The general fell backward onto the rocky ground. This is not possible, gasped. Krathnox, you are primitive. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Maybe, said Shin, walking closer. But my technology works here, and yours does not. Sometimes simple is better than complex. On the Vorthok flagship, the officers watched in shock as their greatest warrior lay helpless on the asteroid. Commander Vexstar could not believe what he was seeing. Sir, said one of his officers, perhaps we should beam the general back to the ship. His armor is completely dead. No, said Vexstar grimly. He accepted the challenge. He must finish it or die trying. But everyone could see that the fight was already over. The mighty Vorthok technology had failed when it was needed most. And the human warrior, armed with nothing but simple tools and determination, stood victorious on the cold asteroid. The greatest weapon in the galaxy, it seemed, was not advanced technology. It was the ability to keep fighting when everything else stopped working. Lieutenant Colonel Shin Minho looked down at General Krathnox lying on the asteroid ground. The alien warrior was still alive, but his advanced armor was completely dead. Without power, the suit was just heavy metal that trapped him like a prison. Get up, said Shin. The fight is not over yet. Krathnox struggled to move. His armor weighed 3 times more than his body. Without the powered servos to help him, every movement was exhausting. My weapons have failed. My armor is broken. How can I fight like this? The same way humans have always fought, said Shin. With whatever you can find. The alien general managed to stand up slowly. His breathing was heavy inside the dead helmet. I do not understand. Without technology, how does one fight? Shin smiled inside his helmet. This was the moment he had been waiting for. The alien had just asked the most important question of the entire war. Watch and learn, said Shin. He threw his laser rifle onto the ground. Then he removed his grenades and tossed them away too. Finally, he pulled out his combat knife and stuck it into a crack in the asteroid. What are you doing? Asked Krathnox. Why are you throwing away your weapons? Because I do not need them anymore, said Shin. You want to see how humans really fight? I will show you. Shin began walking around the asteroid, looking at the scattered debris. Pieces of old spaceships were everywhere. Broken metal beams, twisted cables, chunks of hull plating. To most people, it looked like worthless junk. But to a human, it looked like opportunity. Shin picked up a long metal rod that had once been part of a ship's antenna. He tested its weight and balance. Then he found a heavy piece of engine casing and some strong cables from a destroyed power system. What are you making? Asked Krathnox. The alien was curious despite his situation. A weapon, said Shin simply, using techniques he had learned in survival training. Shin began assembling the debris into something useful. He tied the heavy engine piece to one end of the metal rod with the cables. In 5 minutes, he had created a warhammer that would have made ancient human warriors proud. Possible, said Krathnox. You made a weapon from garbage. Humans have been making weapons from whatever we can find for thousands of years, said Shin. We call it improvisation. But Shin was not finished. He found more debris and started building other things. A shield made from hull plating, a spear from a broken support beam, sling from torn fabric and metal scraps. The alien warrior watched in amazement as the human turned the asteroid into his personal armory. Every piece of trash became a potential tool or weapon. This is not how civilized species fight, said Krathnox. Where is the honor in using crude tools? There is no honor in losing, said Shin. But there is honor in never giving up, no matter. What happens? It's on the Vorthok flagship. Commander Vexstar was also watching with growing concern. What is the human doing down there? Dr. Yoon Haewon answered from the observation deck. He is doing what humans do best. He is adapting. Adapting to what? To everything, said Captain Lee Dongwoo. That is our species' greatest strength. When our tools break, we make new ones. When our plans fail, we make new plans. When our enemies are stronger, we find new ways to fight. Park Jamin nodded. Shin is showing them something they have never seen before. Species that does not depend on technology to survive. Down on the asteroid, Krathnox was beginning to understand how outmatched he really was. His entire life had been built around using the best equipment. He had never learned to fight without it. Help me, he said to Shin. Show me how to make weapons from this debris. Shin stopped what he was doing. Why would I help you? We are enemies. 'Cause I want to understand, said the alien general. In 200 battles, no one has ever done what you are doing. I need to know how. Dubquotes Shin thought about it for a moment. Then he walked over to where Krathnox was struggling with his dead armor. First lesson, said Shin. Get rid of anything? That does not work. He helped the alien remove his broken armor piece by piece. Underneath, Krathnox looked smaller and more vulnerable. His gray skin was covered with old battle scars. Now, said Shin, look around. What do you see? Broken metal? Useless debris? Wrong, said Shin. I see building materials. Every piece of metal can be shaped into something useful. Every cable can tie things together. Every chunk of rock can be thrown at an enemy. He showed Krathnox how to test materials for strength and weight, how to bind pieces together with cables and cloth, how to balance a makeshift weapon so it would strike true. The alien general was a fast learner. Soon he had assembled his own crude spear from a broken antenna and a sharp piece of hull plating. This feels strange, said Krathnox. Using tools, I made myself instead of weapons created by our best engineers. Strange but effective, said Shin. The weapon you make yourself will never fail you the way manufactured equipment can. For the next hour, both warriors worked together. Learning from each other, Krathnox taught Shin about Vorthok combat techniques. Shin taught the alien about human resourcefulness and creativity. But eventually, they both remembered why they were there. We still must fight, said Krathnox sadly. The challenge must be completed. Yes, said Shin. But now we fight as equals. Both warriors picked up their improvised weapons and faced each other. Krathnox held his handmade spear. Shin carried his debris, wore a hammer and shield. Understand now, said the alien general. This is why your species might survive when others have not. You do not give up when your technology fails. We cannot give up, said Shin. Giving up means death. So we adapt, improvise, and keep fighting no matter what. The two warriors began to circle each other on the rocky ground. But something had changed. This was no longer a fight between advanced aliens and primitive humans. It was a battle between two intelligent beings who had learned to respect each other. On the ships above, everyone watched in silence. The Vorthok officers were seeing something that challenged everything they believed about warfare and technology. The humans were seeing their species' greatest strength displayed for all to witness. Shin raised his makeshift hammer. Krathnox lifted his improvised spear. The real fight was about to begin, but now it was a fair fight. and in a fair fight, humans had advantages that no amount of technology could replace. The final fight between Lieutenant Colonel Shin Minho and General Krathnox lasted only 3 minutes. But those 3 minutes changed everything. Both warriors moved carefully across the rocky asteroid surface. Krathnox held his improvised spear like he had been taught by generations of Vorthok warriors. His movements were precise and disciplined. Shin carried his makeshift hammer and shield, but he moved differently. He was unpredictable, always changing direction and speed. "Your fighting style is chaotic," said Krathnox as they circled each other. "There is no pattern to it." "That is the point," replied Shin. "If you cannot predict what I will do, you cannot defend against it." The alien general thrust forward with his spear. It was a perfect attack, exactly as his military training had taught him. But Shin was not where the spear expected him to be. He had rolled sideways at the last moment and came up swinging his hammer. Krathnox barely managed to dodge. The heavy weapon smashed into the ground where he had been standing, sending chunks of rock flying in all directions. "Possible," muttered the alien. "That was not a proper combat technique." "Humans do not always fight properly," said Shin with a grin. "We fight to win." For the next 2 minutes, the pattern continued. Krathnox would make disciplined textbook attacks. Shin would respond with wild, creative moves that made no sense according to military doctrine, but somehow worked perfectly. The alien warrior grew more frustrated with each exchange. His training told him that chaotic fighting was inferior to organized technique. But the human kept winning their small battles through pure unpredictability. Finally, Shin saw his chance. Krathnox had just made another perfect spear thrust, and his weapon was extended too far from his body, instead of dodging again. Shin did something completely unexpected. He threw his shield at the alien's feet. Krathnox tripped over the flying metal plate and stumbled forward. As he fell, Shin brought his hammer down in a controlled strike that hit the alien in the shoulder. Not hard enough to kill, but hard enough to end the fight. Krathnox hit the ground and did not get up. His spear rolled away across the rocks. The general of the mighty Vorthok Empire had been defeated by a human using weapons made from garbage. "I yield," said Krathnox quietly. "The victory is yours." On the Vorthok flagship, complete silence filled the observation deck. Commander Vextar stared at the screen in disbelief. His greatest warrior, equipped with the finest technology in the galaxy, had been beaten by a primitive human using improvised tools. "This cannot be real," whispered one of the Vorthok officers. "Humans are inferior. Our records prove it." "Captain," Li Dongwu stepped forward. "Your records are wrong. You've studied our technology and our military strength, but you never understood what makes humans dangerous." "And what is that?" asked Commander Vextar. Dr. Yoon Haewon answered. "We never stop trying. When our tools break, we make new ones. When our plans fail, we make better plans. When we face impossible odds, we find impossible solutions." "You adapt," said Vextar slowly, as if the word was foreign to him. "More than that," said Park Jimin. "We improvise. We create. We turn problems into opportunities." Your warrior down there learned that lesson, but it was too late. Commander Vextar looked around at his officers. For the first time in his long military career, he was unsure what to do. The ancient challenge had been completed. The human had won. According to Vorthok law, that meant humanity had earned the right to survive. But accepting defeat from a species they considered primitive would shake the foundation of everything the Vorthok Empire believed. "Sir," said one of his officers quietly, "what are your orders?" Vextar was quiet for a long moment. Then he activated the communication system too. "Speak with the human ship." "General Krathnox has been defeated," he announced. "The challenge is complete. But I want to understand something before we honor our agreement." "What do you want to know?" asked Captain Lee. "Your warrior could have killed our general, but he chose not to." "Why?" Down on the asteroid, Shin was helping Krathnox sit up. The alien's shoulder was injured but not broken. They could both hear the conversation through their suit radios. "Because killing him would not prove anything," said Shin. "I defeated him. That was enough." But in Vorthok culture, challenges end in death, said Vexstar. Then maybe Vorthok culture needs to change, replied Shin simply. General Krathnox looked at the human who had spared his life. You're not what we expected, human warrior. Your people are not what we expected. What did you expect? Asked Shin. A primitive species that would be easy to destroy. Instead, we found beings who can succeed when everything goes wrong, who can create weapons from nothing, who can win fights they should not be able to win. Krathnox struggled to his feet with Shin's help. Commander Vexstar, I request permission to speak. Go ahead, General. These humans have shown me something I have never seen before. They have a kind of strength that has nothing to do with technology or weapons. It is the strength to keep fighting no matter what happens. Are you suggesting we should fear them? Asked Vexstar. No, said Krathnox. I am suggesting we should respect them, perhaps learn from them. The communication channel became quiet as the Vorthok officers considered this unexpected development. They had come to destroy a primitive species, but instead they had discovered something remarkable. Finally, Commander Vexstar spoke again. Captain Lee, the challenge has been completed, and your champion has won. According to our laws, your species has earned the right to exist. Thank you, said Lee. Does this mean you will leave our space? It means more than that, said Vexstar. It means we offer you something we have never offered any species before. An alliance. Everyone on both ships was surprised by this announcement. An alliance? Asked Dr. Yoon. Yes. In 3,000 years of conquest, we have destroyed hundreds of species, but we have never found one that could teach us anything new. Your people have shown us abilities we do not possess. You have shown us the value of adaptation and creativity. General Krathnox nodded in agreement. Commander, this human defeated me not with better weapons or stronger armor, but with better thinking. Perhaps our empire has become too dependent on technology. Perhaps we need to learn their ways. Commander Vexstar made his decision. Captain Lee, I propose a treaty between our species. We will share our advanced technology with you. In return, you will teach us the art of adaptation and improvisation. Together, our peoples could become stronger than either could alone. Captain. Lee looked around at his crew. They all nodded in agreement. We accept your offer, Commander, said Lee. But we have one condition. What condition? No more destroying species just because they might become threats. If the Vorthok Empire is going to be our ally, it needs to become something better than a force of destruction. Vexstar considered this for a long moment. Agreed. It is time for the Vorthok to learn new ways. Down on the asteroid, Shin and Krathnox stood together, looking up at the stars. Two warriors from different worlds who had become friends through combat. What happens now? Asked the alien general. Now we go home and tell our people that the universe just became a much more interesting place, said Shin. Much safer too, added Krathnox, thanks to one human who refused to give up when his weapons failed, while as the two warriors prepared to return to their ships, both fleets began preparing for a future none of them had expected. The Vorthok Empire had come to destroy humanity, but instead they had found partners who could teach them that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from having the best technology, but from knowing what to do when all technology fails. Humanity had survived its first contact with hostile aliens by doing what humans do best, adapting, improvising, and never giving up no matter how impossible the situation seems. The galaxy would never be the same.